That's a good place to start. Well, Toni Morrison makes this great point that when we change the language, or when they change the language, they hope that we change too. And we do change, because we are language using animals. And language is not everything about us, but language is a very important part of us and very important definition of who we are, our identities. Well, all this to lead us to some concrete situation about poverty in America. I also had initially prepared a piece on private prisons to show how neoliberalism is at work in this country. But we will skip that now. If we have time, we can come back to that later, next time. But let's go to this piece that BBC actually did on poor in America just last February. So it is very recent, and it is very revealing. Things that you don't really read in the mainstream press or see on evening news.
I went to bed hungry because my parents didn't make anything, and we had nothing to eat.
And the all-night queues to see doctors.
You brought the blankets?
A bunch.
Yeah.
In a country where 50 million don't have health insurance.
No job, no money, no doctor.
We ask what happened to President Obama's vision for America. Las Vegas, the capital of capitalism. Home of the dream that with hard work and luck, anyone can make it in America. But there's another world below, and it's right beneath the casinos. These are storm drains that run under the city, a vast labyrinth which has become a home for struggling Americans. $16 million a night are frittered away just a few feet above, while some down here have swapped a bed for what looks like a cardboard coffin.
These tunnels crisscross for 200 miles under Las Vegas, and about 300 or 400 people live down here. There's a fierce debate in America about what's now become a staggering gap between those at the bottom and those on top.
Right under the throb of the casinos lives Ned. He used to live in a nice flat. He was a well-paid tiler. But, like 13 million Americans, he's now jobless. His partner Danielle tries to make their space look like home.
Why did you come to Vegas?
Work, you know, to get reestablished. And it was prior to the economy being hurt as it is now. And once we got to Vegas, it kind of like stumbled.
4 months ago, they swapped their middle-class life for life in a drain. A world filled with drugs, alcohol, and filth.
What do you miss about your previous lives?
You take for granted the conveniences of power, of hot water, a refrigerator to keep food well. Because, you know, she's a great cook. I love to cook as well.
But no fridge is the least of their problems. They live knowing their fragile existence can be wiped out at a moment's notice by flash floods.
We look up and probably about 50 yards away from us, there's about a 1.5 foot of a wall of water rushing toward us. Everything was taken. The water did get to about 2 feet high.
How often does that happen?
When it rains. I mean, you know, as often as it rains in Vegas, you would get floods.
In the evenings, Ned and Danielle go above ground to hand out flyers to nightclubs. They hustle for a few dollars of tips and commission.
You guys going out tonight?
But America's immense wealth passes them by.
How do you cope with
cold and
You
stressful.
just wake up and you breathe and you know that it's gonna get
Just, have to keep your faith about you.
After dawn, on the other side of town, the local school bus takes a surprising route. Every day it picks up a group of children outside a cheap motel where they live. This is the face of America's massive unemployment. Here in the richest country on earth, there are more than 1.5 million children without homes. At Whitney School, that means about half the children. Joshua, one of the students who lives in the motel, squashes in with his brother, sister, and parents. It's a big change. They used to have 3 bedrooms, a 3-car garage, and a hot tub. Looks like a big house.
It was pretty big, yeah.
They look really happy. Yeah.
They were.
They left home, unable to afford the rent, after Rick, the dad, lost his car repair job. There are almost 3 million more unemployed Americans now than when President Obama was first elected. And the ranks of America's poor are being swelled by people like them who used to be comfortably off.
Work really dried up. I mean, it really dried up bad. And just couldn't live off of what they gave anymore, so I tried to find any job and nobody was hiring.
Virtually destitute, they squatted for months in an abandoned trailer without water or lights. Rick, like many Americans, didn't qualify for unemployment pay. Later, he picked up some part-time work and they moved here. It's much better, but it's still very different than home.
Only time I think that there's been something wrong was like about 4 months ago when they had a gang shoot off over there.
What do you think about it?
Well, I don't really like it here because there's like a lot of bad people over here, like gangsters, drug dealers.
Lalani, a normally confident 14-year-old, has become reclusive.
We had to take her to the hospital because she was having, they said she had like a starting of an ulcer. So evidently she was worrying.
You don't talk about it. Too painful.
I don't want my kids to grow up and be kids. I don't want them to have to dwell on and worry about grown-up stuff.
So, what does the future hold?
I just hope that we can get them into a house at some point, you know, have some freedom and space instead of just always having to, like the other day my son, he said, "Can I get a haircut?" And we told him you have to wait. Something as simple as a haircut. I don't want to have to worry about that.
It's been hell, literally hell, but a couple times, I mean, I really wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to live this life anymore.
There are now 47 million Americans who qualify as being poor, the most in over half a century. And across the country, there's anger. Because 1/5 of America's income is earned by a very wealthy 1% of the population. America's now deeply divided, and it was all meant to be so different. President Obama was elected on his promise to bring jobs back by putting ordinary Americans first. Back then, the country blamed corporate excess for the crash and was behind him.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. But know this, America, they will be met.
But a year ago, the president lost control.
Okay. Well, we know the politics, so it's not. Well, there is a lot to think about here, that the deep and serious and disturbing questions that we have been raising throughout the course, I think, are brought home really by situations like this right here. at home. You don't have to go searching for poverty in Africa, although there's plenty of it there as well. But what will be the tools that we need to feel and to think? And I've been trying to tell you throughout that we need many, many ways of looking at this, and there are many human ways of understanding and using both our reasoning capacity and our feeling capacity. And one great artist, I think, in the world today, she may be the greatest actor, I sometimes think so, of all the actors, male and female, who are alive, is Meryl Streep. And several years ago, she played the role of the mother in Brecht's great play about the 30 Years' War, but which is very much about our time, Mother Courage. And here is a short interview with Meryl Streep. And I think she raises the most fundamental question that everyone should be raising.
What is your job? What does an actor do?
I'm the voice of dead people. So I'm the interpreter of lost songs. And I'm the person who filtered through the sensibility of right now, 2006, with everything we know. I'm the interpreter. I'm between the audience that's going to hear it and my sense of what language they understand.
We're going to be starting shortly. It's a rehearsal. It's not a performance. So anytime you're ready, Marilyn.
I'm not courageous. Only the poor have courage. Why? Because they're hopeless. Just to get up every morning, to plow a potato field in wartime, or to bring kids with no prospects into the world. Yeah, to live poor. That takes courage. No, they trudge along uncomplainingly, carrying the emperor and his heavy throne and the pope and his stone cathedral. They stagger, starving, bearing the whole thundering weight of the great weight of the wealthy on their broad, stupid backs. Is that courage? Must be. But it's perverted courage. Why? Because what they carry on their backs will cost them their lives. Yeah.
Do you think Mother Courage as a tragic figure?
I think for us, you and me, we all live off the war. Whether we acknowledge it, she's just more dirty and in the trenches, but we all live off the war. But mine shall have gained the sweetest and choicest, the baker can bake. One lies in Poland, Yeah. Well, who knows?
Here's the. You want to know why I wanted to do this play? It was not because of the scene where Katrina's brave and brings down the thing and alerts the villagers. Because, in my perverse reading of the play, I suddenly thought, you know what? An act of bravery is a thing that continues the carnage. She's going to wake them up. They're going to fight. It's the war that's going to go on. It's like, ah! The thing that I wanted to make it was because of the lullaby, was this scene that we see over and over and over and over on television, laughing everywhere. Srebrenica, women just going, why? Over the body of their children. Why? That's what it was. It's the whole thing for me.
So that is the question, why? And people are afraid even to ask that question and to listen to their own inner voice. Suffering is very easy to avoid, right? And it's easy to avoid your own suffering, or so you think. And this is something that takes the greatest strength, I think, in life, to face ourselves in the mirror and face ourselves without self-deception. And that is what we must call for from ourselves before we call for anything from anyone else. And that is what Brecht is really trying to do. And that is why I think he's so valuable for us, because he can show us our own face in the mirror. And he can tell us how we ourselves should go about it if we want to. But we have to want to. That is the most important thing and the hardest thing, really, to do. But very short clip from Helene Vigo, who worked very closely with Brecht. And she tells us what he really wanted to accomplish.
When people are intelligent and looking at place who are intelligent, they understand them and understand too that it's not destiny, a deity or kings who have the absolute power to change their life. Looking at small people like we do, like we play them in our theater, maybe they learn a little bit to behave like thinking human beings.
Well, I think that is the important thing, how to think like human beings. And it is far easier said than done. And one of the most hypocritical things about today's civilized society, so-called, is that we have all this eloquence, all these mellifluous words flowing from silver-tongued orators, who sometimes may even mean it, or so they think. But then you look at the praxis, right, the actions, to simplify a bit, and there is nothing, or even worse, just the opposite. So the whole thing is really a very ugly fantasy in Freudian terms. And in a way, so much rubbish has to be cleared up before we can even begin to speak and begin to listen. Brecht was a very self-aware person, and he knew that even those who try to make this into a better world may fail, and may fail even to be decent themselves. Not entirely, perhaps, but certainly in many respects. And this poem that I want to read now, it's called An die Nachgeborenen, which can be translated simply as to posterity. There's a very powerful reading in German by this actor Klaus Kinski. And you can also find a German version recited by Brecht himself. He actually was not bad. He was pretty good. Okay, here it is in English. To posterity. Indeed, I live in the dark ages. A guileless word is an absurdity. A smooth forehead betokens a hard heart. He who laughs has not yet heard the terrible tidings. Ah, what an age it is when to speak of trees is almost a crime, for it is a kind of silence about injustice. And he who walks calmly across the street, is he not out of reach of his friends in trouble? It is true, I earn my living, but believe me, it is only an accident. Nothing that I do entitles me to eat my fill. By chance, I was spared. If my luck leaves me, I am lost. They tell me, eat and drink, be glad you have it. But how can I eat and drink when my food is snatched from the hungry and my glass of water belongs to the thirsty? And yet, I eat and I drink. I would gladly be wise. The old books tell us what wisdom is. Avoid the strife of the world. Live out your little time, fearing no one, using no violence, returning good for evil, not fulfillment of desire, but forgetfulness passes for wisdom. I can do none of this. Indeed, I live in the dark ages. I came to the cities in a time of disorder when hunger ruled. I came among men in a time of uprising, and I revolted with them. So the time passed away, which on earth was given me. I ate my food between massacres. The shadow of murder lay upon my sleep, and when I loved with indifference. I looked upon nature with impatience. So the time passed away, which on earth was given me. In my time, streets led to the quicksand. Speech betrayed me to the slaughterer. There was little I could do. But without me, the rulers would have been more secure. This was my hope. So the time passed away, which on earth was given me. Men's strength was little. The goal lay far in the distance, easy to see, if for me, scarcely attainable. So the time passed away, which on earth was given me. You who shall emerge from the flood in which we are sinking, think, when you speak of our weaknesses, also of the dark time that brought them forth. For we went, changing our country more often than our shoes. In the class war, despairing when there was only injustice and no resistance. For we knew only too well, even the hatred of squalor makes the brow grow stern. Even anger against injustice makes the voice grow harsh. Alas, we who wish to lay the foundations of kindness could not ourselves be kind. But you, when at last it comes to pass that man can help his fellow man, do not judge us too harshly. And let's finish by the end of that film, which also is deeply moving and I think speaks to our conditions, our times, and our situations.
You're seeing the flower of the future. But not for you, Bruce.
Not for me.
No, you've had too much of a good thing already. Get up, get up. Stop worshiping. This isn't your God anymore, although it once was.
Gone. Flowers gone.
No, you just can't see them. Back to work.